Hey everyone, it's Jeff Young, kinesiologist, and in this video we have a low bar squat, which is also known as the Powerlifter version of a squat. And before we get into the video, I just want to point out that since compared with a high bar squat, one of the major differences is that since the bar is placed lower on the back, which forces the lifter to have to push their butt further back in space and then causes more of a forward torso lean, it also places more stress on the lower back. And so because of that, while I think that these should be included in most people's program design for variety's sake, I'm much more of a fan of a high bar back squat and a front squat because both of those types of squats have much less of a forward torso lean and are safer on the low back. Now obviously powerlifters should be performing this type of squat as their primary lift, but please keep in mind that over the course of time this type of squat does place more stress on the low back, and especially people with low back issues such as a herniated disc or general low back pain, you may actually want to avoid this type of squat. So it's just something for you to keep in mind. But having said that, let's go ahead and get into the video. Okay, similar to what I said in my high bar squat video, it's really important to begin by getting directly under the bar, ensuring symmetry with your hand and neck placement, and then bracing your core and press into the bar like you mean it, because it's crucial that you go into the lift with a positive mind frame and that you don't baby the weight out of the rack, because if you do, it's going to make the weight feel heavier and it may negatively affect your mind frame going into the set. The next step anytime you're performing a squat, no matter what the type of squat, is to look down at your feet and ensure that they're symmetrical. In a low bar squat, you want your feet wider than shoulder width apart, which is going to be one of the differences between a low bar and a high bar squat. And the wider you go with your base of support, the more you'll need to rotate your feet outwardly. Another difference between a low bar and a high bar squat is that with a high bar squat, you sit down into the squat, and with a low bar squat, like you're observing here, you want to continually push your butt back into space and really seek out a maximal stretch with your glutes and your upper hamstrings. Another slight difference between a high bar and a low bar squat is that many people can get a little deeper in a high bar squat, but in a low bar squat, thighs parallel to the ground is probably about as deep as you'll be able to go or as you need to go. And because you're pushing your butt continually back into space, the torso is going to have more of a forward lean. And she really has a significant forward lean as compared to most people because she has long legs and especially long thighs and a relatively short torso. So most people aren't going to have as much of a forward lean as you see here. This is self-explanatory. And no matter what the type of squat, this is going to be a similar guideline. You want to maintain a mind-body connection on the muscles that are doing the work, which is your thighs and your glutes, but you also want to make sure that you have part of your mind on your feet to make sure that your body weight never shifts towards your forefoot in either the lowering or the raising portion. This is primarily a guideline for beginners. So as you notice, her shin angle actually isn't close to vertical, but once again, it's because she has unique limb lengths in the sense of having very long legs in comparison with a short torso. And despite the fact that she's pushing her butt continually back into space, her legs are so long that it still leads to a shin angle that moves forward in space, but for most people in a low bar squat, the shin angle will end closer to vertical to the ground. This is also another very important thing to keep in mind. And although there's no mirror in front of her, in any situation where there is a mirror, rather than look up or look too far down, what you should do is look in the mirror and keep your eyes on your hips to make sure that they're dropping straight down and coming straight up, or in other words, no shifting to the side. And also look at your thighs and make sure that they're pushed out to the side with symmetry. So now she's down in a flexed position, and in a perfect world situation, your thigh and your foot angle should approximately match. As you can see, this isn't the case here, and what has happened is that her base support is a little too wide, and she's not able to push her knees out so that her thigh and her foot angle match. And although I noticed this during the taping of the video, I decided not to correct it because I want to sometimes point out some mistakes I see rather than having everything perfect, because I'm not a believer that every rep of every set is going to be perfect. And we have to make decisions as to what we should correct right away and what things we may be able to point out when the set's over with. And in this case, although her base of support is a little bit too wide and she's not able to push her knees out as much as I'd like, the truth is I'm not so ultra conservative that I think that this makes that much of a difference or puts her at greater risk for injury. But having said that, because she is able to squat with relatively heavy loads, it is something that I would probably correct. Thanks a lot for watching this video on the powerlifter's version of a squat. Comment below or let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next video.